and WN this week. And, of course, we've got fake football everywhere. But here in the summer, we tend to forget about some of these other joys of the pastime, including college football, which is coming right around the corner, as well as the Caps and the Wizards. And it's been a busy summer for the Monumental Sports Group down there, not just the naming rights for the Capital One Center. This guy has a little cot there somewhere near the Wizards practice facility underneath down there. He anchors and reports sports for WTOP, spends an inordinate amount of time around the Wizards and the Caps as well as the Redskins. You know, Washington's got a real sports thing going on down there. Dave Preston's there to cover it all for WTOP.com as well as on the radio. And he's Dav Presto, DAVPRESTO, out on Twitter. First off, happy summer. Welcome back. It's been a little while since we've chatted. I think the last time we were chatting, the Caps were keeping us awake late into the night around here, Dave. But certainly from the summer, for where Ted Leonsis' franchises are, which are playoff franchises, they've done their best to hold serve here this summer. There's been no decimation of those franchises, and maybe you can't say the same thing about the Redskins right now.
Right. Well, and of course, you have to understand the city is still in mourning as the Washington Castles, our world team tennis dynasty from earlier this decade, lost their last 7 matches to finish 4-10. It's a pretty sad city right now because of that. But in all seriousness, you look at what the Caps and the Wizards have done. For the Caps, winning time is now. That window may have been last year, but they still are in position to win playoff series right now. They're signing of T.J. Oshie. They're maneuvering of Marcus Johansson. Unfortunately, you had to say goodbye to him. Nate Schmidt, you lost him in expansion. That was a tough one to lose. I thought that guy could have been a great building block, in one of the defensive pairs. But the Caps are definitely in a win now mode. The Wizards are a team that they've kept that nucleus together, or they're doing so, with Otto Porter getting the max deal, John Wall getting the new contract, the triumvirate of Beal, Wall, and Otto Porter. That's the nucleus moving forward. There may be about 3 or 4 years before we get to the point of panic when now is the window closing.
I haven't talked much about the Wall thing. It kind of happened when I was away. I got back. I had all the Kaepernick stuff going on around here and the Orioles playing out on the West Coast. The Wall thing is a very, very good thing for the franchise. Not only just a classy dude. I know he's done some stuff for leukemia and children, and that was not lost on my wife and I. Obviously, he has emerged as a perennial all-star player, but the fact that he wanted to stay, because these guys call their own shots, right? I mean, everybody in Oklahoma City wanted Durant to stay, right? I mean, everybody in Cleveland wanted LeBron to stay the first time and Miami the second time. So when the best players in the sport decide to stay, that's got to be applauded all the way around, I think, right?
And he's only 26 years old. Can you believe that? And it feels like he's been around forever. He's been the best player. You could argue that he was the best player on this team from the very day that he began his career as a Wizard. They were an absolute mess earlier this decade. The team has grown around him. Granted, there have been some missteps. There have been some bad moves here and there by management and putting the right pieces together around John Wall. But everything you want from a face of the franchise, and sometimes a team puts the wrong guy, a guy with the right skill set but doesn't have the right attitude, doesn't have the right leadership capabilities to do so. John Wall is the right guy to lead this team, and it's nice to see him get his just rewards. And it's nice to see the fans be able to go to bed a little easier knowing that he's going to be around, that he's very happy, and that he wants to be in D.C. and do everything he can to put a banner up in that arena.
He is Dave Preston. He is Dav Presto out on Twitter. And look, I can get back to all the Washington sports and all that stuff. And, for some folks here, they don't share my affinity for the Caps and for the Wizards. Certainly, we all have disdain for the Redskins, and that was on display even in fake football on Thursday night. But, boy, the Bryce Harper thing and it could happen to your guy or your Machado or your Trout or whatever. And we've watched Trout play late into the night last week here, and we'll see him in Baltimore this week. The Harper thing was really kind of everyone holding their breath throughout the fan base and the organization, but also through Major League Baseball. It's funny, it's baseball. We play the game with bases, but it's been brought out that maybe they're not the safest damn things, right?
Oh, and the thing is, too, Nestor, the first thing one thought of when Harper went down with the injury in April, Adam Eaton, who was hitting the tar off the ball, the perfect off-season pickup for this team, he was done for the season with a torn ACL. That's the first thing you thought of because it was a very similar play. He stretched out, and they always say instead of stretching to reach the base, you just run through. I think in Little League I tried to jump, like long jump towards first base, out by a mile. But a lot of these guys, the adrenaline, you just take over. Maybe if I just stretch a little bit and can beat the throw. Adam Eaton tried to do it in April. He's done for the year. Bryce Harper on a slippery bag, went into a tailspin. I think the fact that he slipped a little bit, that maybe saved those ligaments because there was a little bit of give instead of, the foot and the spike planting on the bag. There's been a lot of talk the last couple of days, Nestor, about maybe they need to soften up the bases. Maybe there needs to be more give on first base. I'm not saying turn it into beer league softball, but you can't have prime players going down because of, equipment malfunction, or it's akin to somebody running into a pylon. And being out for the season.
And they changed that in the NFL back in 1974 or whatever, right? When they say you don't want guys running into catchers, you don't want guys running into walls, you don't want guys running into each other, but that's sort of avoidable if they speak the same language. But the base thing, Luis Aparicio slid into second base back in 1971 and ripped his hand up, and it cost him a year. So I mean, it has happened amongst sliding. And, of course, we saw the, crazy nonsense going on a couple years ago out in Los Angeles where Chase Utley is snapping guys' legs on the pivot. But, you don't want guys getting hurt in baseball. And the bases, it's a weird conversation to be having at an advanced age at this point, Dave. I thought I'd seen it all, but now we're going to talk about this, right?
Yeah, I know. And it's a shame because Harper's having a year that probably equals his MVP season of 2 years ago. And the reason why I think he's having a better year this year is that he's playing for a winning, he's playing for a contender as opposed to 2 years ago when under Matt Williams they were a dysfunctional mess where he wound up, Harper, choked on the bat and then wound up getting choked by the reliever a couple weeks later. This is a team that, injuries are a part of the game, but in many cases, the Nats are on plan B and plan C. When you look at how Eaton went down, then Michael A. Taylor went down. Taylor's back, but Brian Goodwin was really their third organizational choice at center field. Jason Worth has not has not seen a major league pitch since June 3rd, so that there's a void there in left field. And if they were to lose Harper, they've already used 12 outfielders this season. And Dusty Baker, the manager, said, "Hey, it's kind of crazy because we can only use 3 at a time." Dusty's logic is really irrefutable sometimes.
Dave Preston is here. He gets the logic of Dusty Baker each and every night. And, they're just holding their breath down there waiting for game one at this point. But between now and then, the one more thing that we share here in the DMV, as the kids call it, the Maryland Terps. And I had DJ Durkin on the air last week. I know you've made it over to a couple of practices there. And I know college football is deep down your real passion. And I know you got your big preview coming out next week at WTOP.com. Some thoughts about the Terps and stepping up. And certainly there's going to be plenty of talk about where they head in week one. And they're playing in Texas before most NFL fans will be sleeping on Labor Day weekend when that's going on.
And you know what? This is the first time they have been out of the state to open the season since, I think, 2009. They lost at Cal that year. The next year, I think 2010, they went up to Baltimore, beat Navy in one of the better games that was one of Fridge's. That was the last season of Ralph Friedgen, and that was one of the last classic Ralph Friedgen pull stuff out of his you-know-where to get a W because Navy had multiple chances to win that game.
Well, Maryland and Navy never get together based on some insult from 1962. I've read all the internet rumors about that are facts, right?
But that was a great game. And so Maryland has not opened on the road since 2010. Teams of, I guess Maryland stature, they usually try to open at home. Occasionally you get that early, conference game or what have you. But a lot of anticipation as they go into Texas, a lot of trying to figure out over the next couple of weeks who's going to be their quarterback because they don't have a lot of experience at quarterback. Only 2 starts returned from last year, and those were both guys starting because of injury. Max Bortenschlager forced into the game against Nebraska. Tyrell Pigram, who's got skills as well, forced into the start, I believe, against Minnesota. So they have a lot of youth on both sides of the football. They've got a lot of excitement with Ty Johnson and Lorenzo Harrison, a great tandem. If Lorenzo Harrison can behave and stay out of trouble, that's going to be a strong point for this team. But the Big Ten East is just so tough and so competitive this year. It's going to be a challenge for this program to get to 6 wins. They might be better than they were last year on both sides of the ball when you look at how well this team is playing and how well this program is growing under Coach Durkin, but they might not get to 6 wins because it's just, you've got Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State. Indiana's supposed to be better this year. Their crossover games are against Northwestern and Minnesota. Those 2 teams are no slouches either.
Well, they're going to have to go to Wisconsin as well. So, I mean, they got their hands full all the way through, and such is life in the Big Ten. And I guess the hardest part is the reawakening of the Penn States, right? And the occasional awakenings of the Wisconsins and Michigan States and Iowas. I don't know when the Maryland awakening is going to happen. I did think it was that pasting of Purdue last year. I think that sort of changed the perspective, and also beating Michigan and beating Penn State a couple of years ago sort of keeps hope alive. But then you see a real Michigan team, you see a real Ohio State team, and you see a Maryland team that can't compete at that level.
And with the former Virginia Tech coach Frank Beamer would always say in early September, the biggest improvement you see in a team is from week 1 to week 2. Conversely, the biggest improvement you see under a new head coach is often from season 1 to season 2. Might not translate in wins, but it's going to translate in there are more of his guys on campus. He's had 1 full recruiting class that he's been able to take from cradle to grave. The guys that are from that previous class who stuck around, those are guys who have bought in. Everyone who is here now has bought into the program, and I think you're going to see. He is very positive about what he's seen. Instead of last year, he had to install everything: how we practice, how we eat, how we line up, this, that, and the other thing. This year, they're expanding on that, and as long as his offensive line can stay healthy, because last year they allowed the most sacks in the Big Ten. As long as they can avoid mistakes, because they committed the most penalties in the Big Ten last year. If they can minimize mistakes, if they can stay healthy on that offensive and defensive line, because the Big Ten is, you just looking at some of the opposing offensive and defensive lines, it's big boy football. And I was hoping when they announced the recruiting class this year that they would be able to steal 1 or 2 kids from, say, a Chicago or from Michigan or from the Midwest. Get some of those kids over here, and while that's yet to really come to fruition, you hope, just like when we've talked during basketball season, Nestor, they need skilled bigs. Mark Turgeon needs to bring in some skilled bigs like Swanigan, like Happ, like those big guys who are
Big Ten guys, right? I mean, what the Big Ten is known for.
Exactly. Skilled Big Ten, forwards and centers, just like that, and that's the same case with Maryland football. They need to bring in skilled offensive linemen who, instead of being finesse guys that you'd see succeed in the ACC, they're guys who can knock the snot out of your locker and just run you over, because that's how you're going to win consistently in the Big Ten. And until they do so, they're going to be an outlier. But if there's one guy I think that can, turn them from outlier status to potential contending status, it's, you got to be happy with a guy like DJ Durkin, who has a world of enthusiasm that's kind of infectious.
Dave, the last time I left Cole Fieldhouse, I think there was a hot breeze blowing at my back on a 20-degree night there in an ACC game, long since forgotten. I spent a lot of nights there. It was a neat place, what they've done, and I've only seen the HD video, and I've seen, sort of all the virtual tour of it, but I can't wait to get down there and check it out. That's got to help the football program, right?
It is. It's not. I think the school thinks it's a bigger improvement than it actually is. It takes their facilities from the very bottom of the Big Ten to maybe the middle of the Big Ten. I think the school, when they trumped it out, because it is brand new. So it's new isn't always better, but it's definitely what's new. And I think a lot of people think that it's going to take them into the top 2 or 3 facility wise. It's not going to do that, but 5, 6, 7 is much better than where they were before. And instead of schools being able to use the lack of facilities against them, now Maryland has an answer for that, and it's something that's new. They've got the Under Armour brand behind them, and it's it's the facility that Ralph Friedgen wanted 10 years ago. So I guess better late than never.
Dave Preston is Dav Presto out on Twitter. He's always at WTOP and WTOP.com. You can find him out on Twitter as well. And talk a bit about your college football preview, because I do know it's your pride and joy.
We did it we've done it the last couple of years on WTOP.com, Nestor. Last we blocked off a whole week. One day we devoted to Maryland, and we're going to do that again this year. Noah Frank, our digital editor, is going to do a national preview on Monday. We're going to talk about Maryland and then Virginia Tech. It's all those two schools. It's a shame that one of the regrets I have of Maryland not being in the ACC is that you dealt with Virginia and Virginia Tech more often than not, and there was always kind of a semi-sibling rivalry where Virginia Tech wanted to beat Virginia and Virginia wanted to ignore Virginia Tech. So you got that. Navy is also coming back, and even though they were picked to finish third in the West Division of the AAC, they look to be good this year. They've got a new quarterback in Zach Abey, who was pressed into action last year against Army. And then a lot of people don't realize that there's a defending champ within our range of the Beltway. James Madison won the FCS title last year, and there's a lot of very good programs in FCS, ranging from Towson's been competitive over the years.
Delaware?
Of course, I know. Well, football championship series. Towson, I don't know. Towson's up and down, but they're pretty decent here and there. They've made strides.
Well, we're going to see how decent they are. They play Maryland in week 2, right?
Yes, they do. Yeah, that should be interesting, especially as Maryland. I think the last thought on Maryland and Texas is that I could easily see 3 or 4 quarterbacks playing against Texas, because I don't think DJ Durkin's going to have in his mind who the starter is going to be until after they play Towson. So we're going to talk about just about everything on WTOP.com next week. Also on Preston's Perspective on WordPress, and it's a busy time, Nestor, but it's a great time of anticipation, because college football is the best regular season in sports.
And the Redskins are going to stink this year, right?
Oh, hey, you know what? The biggest bummer is I don't think they're eligible to win that preseason banner now that they lost, although because it's an AFC loss, they can still win the NFC East preseason banner. They're 21-8 under Bruce Allen as GM in August. So that means nothing.
Bring me the Governor's Cup, Larry Hogan, I should say. Hey, man, great to have you on, as always. Always some great insights. And we're not far away from dropping the puck and dribbling the basketball either, dare I say, in mid-August. Great to have you on, Dave.
And looking forward to seeing you this winter. Going to be 2 pivotal seasons, I think, for the Wizards and the Capitals, because, as we mentioned, it's win now for one team and it's anticipate now for the other. Thanks again, Nestor.
It's been great, and I'm looking forward to rocking my red with you, Dave Preston. Dav Presto, DAVPRESTO, out on Twitter. He is Dave Preston, and next time I get him on, I'm going to press him on this Bond movie thing he has with Goldfinger and talk him into liking Roger Moore and more. You can find me more. Yeah, more better more. I miss Roger Moore. Love Roger Moore. Shared the greatest Roger Moore story out on my Facebook and Twitter about his life as James Bond walking the streets amongst adoring fans. One of the best stories I've ever heard. You can find me out at thebuyatoyota.com, audio of all 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. I don't know why I got on my James Bond tangent, but it's on Dave Preston's Twitter. It says so right here. His favorite movie is Goldfinger. Mine is Man with the Golden Gun, so we can argue that back and forth. Mine had Hervé Villechaize in it. And, any movie with Britt Eklund and Maude Adams, damn it, should be a hit. Christopher Lee. That's what I'm talking about. The morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. Last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And of course, Dennis will be here getting you ready for said football game on Thursday night. He does 3 until 5 each and every week. It is the SSV on WNST. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live right here on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We have fresh lighting. Thank you, Randy Dorman. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.